Here. Okay, everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. Very good. Okay, so we are going to actually continue in the section in the Song of Prayer. But before we do that, I thought I would just kind of recap some of the last number of months of classes, because this whole section we've been basically talking about of the idea of it is the forgiveness of my brother that really allows myself to be forgiven was introduced by Barb asking this question. She had found this section in the course that said, the course does not aim at teaching the meaning, oh, wait, that's not the right one, I'm sorry, the self-accused. Only the self-accused condemn. As you prepare to make a choice that will result in different outcomes, there is first one thing you must overlearn. It must become a habit of response so typical of everything you do that it becomes your first response to all temptation and to every situation that occurs. Learn this and learn it well, for it is here delay of happiness is shortened by a span of time you cannot realize. You never hate your brother for his sins, but only for your own. Whatever form his sins appear to take, it but obscures the fact that you believe them to be yours, and therefore meriting a just attack. And
that's funny because our whole life is built on that.
Absolutely, 100%.
But it's always blaming ourselves.
Correct.
Or that thought in our mind, accusing ourselves. I mean, we do stuff.
Yep.
Like, you use that candy as a
Sure.
But all sorts of stuff like that.
Yep. Exactly. Always.
We try to, anything we do that we think we're going to get caught or punished or whatever, I gotta blame somebody.
Yes. Yeah. And those of us who have had more than one person in the family know that it's real easy when somebody's going to get in trouble. I'm going to point the finger at somebody else instead of get the blame myself, even if I know well that I am the one that's responsible, because none of us want to get caught. And I think that's a very important realization. It's not that I feel that bad about doing it. It's that I don't want to get caught.
The section that says that we're murderers. The only reason we don't carry that out is we get caught.
Right. Yes.
Really?
I know. It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. That's the setup. And again, the reason why I'm trying to bring this to light and bring it to a strong realization is because this is really the crux of the course. The beginning lines in the course in the introduction are the course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. And I use that quote often. In fact, personally, if somebody asks me what the course is about, that's the response I will say. It's a course on removing the blocks to the awareness of love, of which most of them walk away and turn the other way. But as I was reading this, I thought it was really wonderful that the part of the line that I wasn't using was, which is your natural inheritance?
Love.
My natural inheritance is love. When we chose for the separation, we made the block that keeps us from accepting and knowing what our natural inheritance is.
That's the platform
That's
that we
the
stand
platform.
on. And that's why it feels like we're recognizing it.
Yes, well, then we really are recognizing it,
That's
yes.
why we're all searching for, we think we need to search for that love, and it's right
Right
behind our.
Our
choice
cloud,
for the
yep,
ego.
Yep, the cloud is keeping us from knowing what's behind there. All right, so this is the Son or the Holy Spirit. We've got the block or the belief in the separation or the ego. And that's what we look at all the time. That's the lens we see through. And right behind there is Mr. Son
our
waiting for
inheritance,
us.
like you said.
Yes, and that's our inheritance, yes. And all that was given to us is exactly what God is. The only thing God did not and cannot give us is the ability to be the creator.
First choice.
Correct. And we wanted that so bad, we decided to take on our own way of doing this. And the
No, I think
results
we
are
wanted
this.
that individual
Well,
independence,
exactly, that
more
too.
so than
Yeah.
being in charge, but
Whatever, the results aren't good. We
Right.
got everything from the oneness and we lost everything of real value when we chose the separation. But I got to be an individual, special and in charge. So that's the price I pay to maintain this thought system.
specialness takes the place of God's love.
There you go. And as we know, in the world, there are just so many ways, so many things we could replace it with. You know, whether it's shopping or drugs or alcohol or being a workaholic or a gardenaholic or whatever it happens to be, there's so many things that keep us from acknowledging that I am just that alone. And as we sift through the piles of the ego, eventually we will wear thin and we'll finally say, all right, what do you got there? Because my way isn't working too well. You know, for that momentary experience of, oh, isn't this wonderful or isn't this elated and whatnot. But then tomorrow morning I wake up and it's all over again and I have to start again. Yes.
There is so much, I would think, there are so many people in a horrendous amount of pain. How is it that we haven't asked yet? Is there a better way? I mean, I just kind of came across this course that I wanted a miracle and I saw it, you know, but it needed to, I had no idea what it was about.
Right. Yeah. You know, Miriam, that's actually a good question. And the course says there's a limit to how much pain we can tolerate. And when I look at it, the thought that comes to my mind is, I can't believe that it took that much pain to come to the point where we finally said, there's got to be another way, in whatever form we, you know, came to that.
Yeah, because I certainly had enough pain in
Right.
asking that question, but that question didn't come into my mind.
Right.
It just happened. Of course, somebody would say, well, you know, you were guided also to use.
Right.
A class called The Course in Miracles. And that
Yes.
would be true.
Yeah. And I think,
But we utilize the various different forms such as alcohol, food, drugs, whatever, to cope with that.
exactly. Yes.
And we don't realize that we're doing it because we're in pain.
Yeah.
At least I didn't know that
Well,
when I was drinking.
Right. And I think the whole world, you know, this is such a huge camouflage. You know, the thought of, oh, I could just go ask for another answer, it isn't even available to us.
We're drowning.
What we're drowning,
We're
yes.
drowning, and we're just trying
Yes.
to keep our nose
Oh,
above
right,
water
exactly.
and not drown.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there has to be
Absolutely.
something
We
that
Yes.
just use whatever it is.
Exactly.
Whatever we see, and unfortunately, what we
Right.
see is not the answer.
No. But, and at the same time, it's almost like, you know, I mentioned, well, we'll just take out this little guy chart of the hero, the dream and all this stuff that can get our attention. Well, there's a whole lot of things that can get our attention. Now, Krishnamurti talked about the idea of, you know, it's hard to find someone to come on a spiritual journey because you're either struggling to survive or you get enough to survive and then you want to go party. So you have to find somebody right in the middle there where there's, you know, that space, because as long as I've got the attention and the things and I'm getting what I think I want, or I'm chasing thinking, if I just do this one more thing, that's going to take me to
Yet
that
you
place.
see down the road, none of that has ever worked for you.
We do, but in the meantime, we chase after whatever comes down the pike. And we, you know, there's so many things to chase. Yeah, Andrea, I know you had your hand
There's
up.
the thing about chasing God. I
Well,
felt like
there's that
as
too.
a child, I was always forever in church and forever thinking about who, you know, how I can act better than the people that persecute me or whatever. All those kind of things.
Yeah.
Had all kinds of activities. I mean, it was just, you know, nonstop.
Yep.
Monday we had this, then we had the rosary, and you know, every week, Sunday, you know, so that wasn't it either. Like that was
Right.
not, like, to look for God is not, that wasn't what they were doing, but who was
Right.
I to say that? I mean,
Right.
I
Well-
still wouldn't say that they're not
Right.
looking for God. I just don't say anything now, which is such a relief.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Because when I say things, I'm saying them about myself. It's like you take this hammer, I mean, I feel like you take this hammer and you're hitting yourself most of your life, and you go, well, I could stop doing this. That's just how, you know,
Yes.
like, you don't really ever have a chance to stop.
Don't even know we're hitting ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, the way that this is set up, our world did not present that there is another way. That wasn't an available concept. It was make a little bit more money, buy a bigger house, have another child, you know, do this, do that, get a better job, and everything will be all right. And we've all chased many, many avenues along the way, you know, and some of it can be all right and nice. And, you know, it's way better to go to a movie than do something you don't want to do, or whatever it happens to be that you enjoy. But there's always that hole inside that can't be filled by anything in the world. And the desperate moments, as you were saying, Marianne, of, you know, maybe that space opens up, and that's why you found the information about the course. You know, who knows? Yeah.
Because it wasn't me asking.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Even though obviously I must have thought that to some extent, or I would have walked through.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Instead of just doing nothing like I had for so many years. Versus coming to the Catholic Church.
Right. Yep.
Well, it's strange, you know, that the course presents an opportunity to look at ourselves just as we are, because I don't know about anyone else, but I spent most of my life trying to hide who I thought I was.
Oh, gosh, yes. Well, and we tried to hide because it looked like everybody had it together except for me, and I'm certainly not going to tell
All we
everybody.
saw what everyone had together was what I was seeing in myself,
Right.
which I didn't realize
At the
was going
time.
on
Yeah.
either.
It's crazy how we sort of all feel the same.
It
You know what I mean?
is.
That's
I mean,
true.
that's the human condition.
Yes.
It's just showing me that the course is true.
Yeah.
You know, Ken says the ego tells us we're not good enough, but doesn't tell us that it's telling everybody else the same thing.
Of course.
Well, and again, the human condition, the setup of the ego is equally the same for all of us. Some of us may look like on the outside, we got it together a little bit more. And I guess Freud was taking his niece for a walk, and they were walking down the street, and he was saying, see all these beautiful houses. It was in a really nice neighborhood. And he said, you don't want to see what's behind the walls.
Exactly. Well, you know, the ego told us, you know, there's these four things: power, fame, money, and pleasure. You accomplish that,
You're
you've got
good to
it
go.
made, buddy.
Yep. But
Except for the guilt, sin, and fear.
Well,
still
exactly.
constantly every day.
Yes.
And the crazy thing about the fear is that most of the time, the shit doesn't even happen. It
well,
doesn't even
there's that too.
materialize.
Yeah, that's so
Well,
true.
Yeah.
Just look
You're
for it,
listening to
and you're
lies.
not gonna come up with anything.
Yeah. I'm trying to listen to a different voice.
That's,
trying to listen to,
I'm
you
into
know.
that, girl.
Yeah.
I'm into
You
that.
know, I would say one thing, I would assert that things are changing a little bit, in that in my spiritual communities where I belonged, there are children being born to parents that have gotten to the point of doing things like Course in Miracles or, you know, other paths. And I got to tell you, I see in these kids, they are not saddled with quite the degree of resistance that most of us are to this stuff. Like, they have much more of a grounding in sort of, you know, the fact that they come from something good and that they have something good in them, right? And they kind of know that, I don't know, they have different skills. So I would just assert that while certainly for me, the the path was something missing. I'm seeing kids growing up in knowing where they are, who they are, and where they come from, and they are having a much different experience.
But I would guess that they will have their challenges along the way as well,
You don't know
because,
your path.
right, we don't know their path, we don't know what direction or how things will unfold as they go along. But, certainly as each one of us connects more and more with our truth, that's going to be reflected in our world more as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll have their challenges. They will have them with a different tool set. They will be meeting their original challenges in life with the kind of tool sets like Course in Miracles, which I think a lot of us didn't have that benefit.
Right.
The
All right.
ego's the same in all of us.
Well, and the ego is basically the same in all of us. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, how it's meant. And one of us know,
Right.
each one of us do a really good thing than the next one.
Yeah.
But the bottom.
Yeah, and the ego is the same in all of us. I'll raise my hand in agreement with that. And we are different having the tool set. We're better equipped having the tool set of something like the Course in Miracles. And my point is these kids have that more than certainly than I did. And I would imagine more than most people I know did. So yeah, they'll have an ego. They've got a little bit of a jump start on the toolkit of dealing with it is all.
They'll just have a different angle when they
Yep.
come back in.
Yep.
It's gonna be just that you have that you have whatever you have is the most important thing that you can offer.
Well, we're only told you accept the atonement for yourself. That's the only thing the Course is specifically
That's
says.
required, yes.
You don't worry about the guy next to you or in front of you.
Yep.
I'm just required to accept the atonement for myself.
Yeah. And, I would think that one of the things that seems true for me, and I know, Bob, you're in the program, so progress, not perfection, right? And if we are all making progress on our own path with our own ego, I would say that they have what I've seen progress in these kids that far outstrips most adults that I know. And not that they don't have an ego and not that they won't deal with it, but I certainly feel better equipped to deal with my ego challenges now, having done the work that I've done, than I did at their age. And they're starting at a level where I already am. So yeah, they may have their challenges and all that. They're just, I think it's more accessible. They have the toolkit and the experiences and the supporting environment to help them. Like, I don't think everybody has to suffer equally. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying they have, I know I suffer less. Hang on, Bob. Hey, I'm just saying that I don't think everybody has to suffer the same, and they seem to have a toolkit that's helping them along the way, right? So I just think there's progress, right? Because we're all in this to grow spiritually. And if these kids are already starting in an environment where they have some really substantial underpinnings and tools with that, I think their suffering will certainly be their suffering, but I don't think everybody has to go on the same path. And I don't think it has to be equally hard for everyone. Like, I know people who have died, for instance, of addictions, and that's a very hard path. It wasn't my path, and I'm grateful for that. So, everybody's got their own path. I'm just saying, I think I like being equipped with these tools, and I see these kids who are equipped with these tools having much less struggle in their lives. It's easier for them to sort of access the teachings and skills of the Course than most adults I know.
Well, I've been in program, I came from a meeting a little bit earlier, and one of the things I learned was not to use my inside to judge somebody's outside, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, the Course tells me I don't see anybody as they really are anyway.
True.
So if I make an assumption about who and what they are and what their purpose is, I'm not probably going to be right. And the other thing I've noticed is that being in a couple of Course in Miracles groups for over 20 plus years, that my own interpretation of the same tool changes over time. So I can't assume that the same tool that I love can also be used to inflate the ego.
Oh, big time, yes.
So I
Big time,
think
yes.
it's an evolution. The planet is a place of initiation. Everybody's getting initiated. with
Something good. right.
And we just have to trust the process that everybody gets what they need. But I can't say one person is on a better path because they have 50 tools in front of them and they only need one.
Yeah, and I'm not judging that somebody's on a better path. I'm saying that they have more tools, that they've gotten different learnings and basics things that certainly that I didn't receive growing up. And the question I just want to ask is the assertion here, is the underlying premise here that everybody suffers equally all the time? Because to me, being in the course is about reducing my own suffering by being acquainted with something bigger than myself. So I'm going to ask, I mean, are you all defending the fact that everybody's going to suffer equally?
I don't know that I would say everybody's going to suffer equally or that everybody will suffer at the same time in the same way. But where the setup of this is that if you're an ego and you're born on this planet and you are not an ascended being and you're just here to help out, you're going to suffer. It's set up that way. And, you know, those kids that you're talking about may appear to have great tools that could be very helpful for them, but they may have a hard time relating to their friends that don't have tools, and they can be judged by not fitting in. I mean, there's so many ways that the internal concept of I'm not good enough or I'm judged can be played out that we can't really specifically identify in another individual. And you know, something that somebody might be going through and you might think, oh, that's a piece of cake. For them, it's terrifying or it's horrifying. So we really can't put this into a scale of that, you know, this is hard. Well, and the course even says there's no order of difficulties in miracles in the respect that if anything can take my peace away, big or small, tools or no tools, how am I going to deal with this at this moment is really where it all boils down to.
And the fact-
So with the with that, so I'm not arguing the process.
Right.
I totally get it. We all get an ego. We're all in these experiences that we're having here. I'm kind of exploring the question about where is their growth, where is their progress? Because I am studying this course and doing all the things that I do in life to come closer to that, you know, that universal love that is
Right,
the
sure.
power in the universe, right? And so all I'm saying is like, and along the way, so I'm not arguing process, but I am saying skills help, right? Because if and I'm not saying just because these kids have skills, they're gonna sorry?
I said we wouldn't all be sitting here if we didn't believe that there's something that can be beneficial.
Right. And that's my point. It's not so much that I'm judging that their life is harder or easier. I think that they won't have suffering. What I'm saying is it's inspiring to me that there are people on the planet that are exercising these skills earlier. And to me, that shows progress toward that thing we're all working toward.
Okay. All right.
Well, when you
keep it
say
up.
you're doing your best, you are.
Well, there can be that as
You're
well.
doing your best.
Yeah.
That's the
You don't know.
easiest way of saying you don't know which end is up. Choose the Holy Spirit.
Well, and I think there's another thing that is important. We're not, of course, we're taught not to take somebody else's inventory.
Right.
And
There you go.
whether it's a positive inventory or a negative, so-called negative inventory. But the other thing is maybe they're getting good tools early because they're gonna need some heavier tools later.
That is,
I don't know what
yes.
they're gonna see in their lifetime. I feel sorry for my students. Got 20 years of generation, whatever they are, and the one coming behind them. And I feel bad for them often because they come to me and they say, well, my mother is this and I can't deal with it. Or now one of my students, the whole COVID situation, but
Sure.
I say to myself, thank God I have these tools. But I go, wait a minute, they have tools too, and higher power will give them the tools they need as they need them.
Correct. Yes.
That's it. You know, I can't spend my time wondering about what their role is. If I'm a better person, it makes everybody uplifted.
Right.
That's all. So I tried.
Yeah, that's what we're all doing, trying here.
And also the course says that very, very few will get this course.
Well, in this lifetime, it
Right.
says we'll all get it. Because I read that in there or I wouldn't be studying.
The outcome is certain.
There, yeah, the outcome is certain, yeah, but it's a matter of how long it takes us to get there.
Well, yes, but if we've already had thousands of lifetimes like it.
Actually, we've already accepted the atonement.
Well, there's that
Just
too.
haven't
Yes,
recognized it yet.
there's that too.
We've accepted what?
The
We've already
atonement.
accepted the atonement. We haven't recognized that yet. That's what the
Then
court
how do they
says.
accept it?
You don't accept that.
All right.
Get another chance and.
So as Denise said earlier about the idea of the tools plus the idea of guilt and fear, there's a quote that says, of one thing you were sure, of all the many causes you perceived as bringing pain and suffering to you, your guilt was not among them,
That's right.
nor did you in any way request them for yourself. In other words, I'm an innocent victim of what came upon me. This is how the all illusions come about. The one who makes them does not see himself as making them, and their reality does not depend on him. Whatever cause they have is something quite apart from him, and what he sees is separate from his mind. He cannot doubt his dreams' reality because he does not see the part he plays in making them and making them real. One can awaken from a dream, one cannot awaken from a dream the world is dreaming for him. So again, this whole idea of it appears my suffering and pain is coming from something outside of me, but the suffering and pain is a projection from my mind that I'm choosing to see out there so that I can be justified to play the part of an innocent victim and point the finger at someone else.
And
That's
that's
the
why
whole
it's
deal.
important that we are victims so that we can suffer and point the finger. That's very important to us.
Very important to
Even
become
though
aware.
I can't attest to the fact that I want this. Well, Harvey doesn't want it,
Correct.
but the puppeteer wants it.
Yes, yes, because that's the only way we can play out the storyline. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, something else is masquerading as peace.
Well,
It's
then
not-
there's
it's not
that.
real- It's not real peace, it's equalizing maybe of two different things, but it's not peace, and it wants to, it wants to use itself as a tool of peace, and it's not.
Well, and that's
Like, if I'm right and you're wrong, then I'm at peace.
right. You think you're at peace,
Right.
correct? Yes.
And
Well,
that isn't how it
yes.
works.
And that's a very manipulative aspect of the ego, because in the worldly sense, as you said, if I get my own way, or I get to go on a picnic today and it's sunny and I don't have to go to work, I could say I'm at peace, but that's not the peace the Course is referring to at all. It's a piece of understanding where nothing and no one and no circumstance can take that piece from me, because I know who I am. And it's not an artificial, okay, I'm going to be at peace no matter what happens kind of an experience. It will be I simply am not affected by this because I know unequivocally it's not real. Well, I think most of us aren't quite that high up on the ladder, but it is a direction to climb to.
We really don't know what peace is.
We don't know what peace is. We absolutely don't know what love is. Yes.
When I attain the real world, I'll let you know.
Oh, man, come on back.
You're gonna rub it in.
So Marianne,
Yes, Jason.
yeah, so Marianne, how do you see your brother as God if your brother is trying to harm you?
Okay, good question. And, we really did read that a little bit around that last week, where it says, learn that God has given you the means by which you can return to him in peace. Do not see error, do not make it real. But that doesn't mean I walk around like this. And it doesn't mean like I think, okay, well, he's not really hurting me, or he's not really causing me to lose my peace. It's that you really own, I'm upset, I'm pissed off, I'm angry, I'm whatever it is that I happen to be at this moment. But that's looking through this lens. Holy Spirit, I want to see what you've got.
Yeah, the only thing where you could see what you described is go to your mind.
Go to your mind.
That's where it
That's where
is.
the answer
Not
of,
here.
No.
On earth.
and ultimately, we don't want it to be here because that's the only way I can play the game. And I have to really, on some level, be willing to stop playing the game. And this playing of the game is I'm right and you're wrong.
Well, I'm only doing it to myself.
Well, and I'm always doing it to myself, but we're not consciously aware where we're sitting in the illusion because we're the effect of the choice, that we set this up on our own.
Yeah, it sure looks like the other guy's getting.
Oh, it sure does. Sure does. And, again, everything about our senses, our hearing, our sight, our feelings, our smell, the whole deal have been programmed to see our brother as the bad guy.
Yeah, but the sad part is one other guy.
Well,
Oh,
but
you
where we're
better
sitting, we're
pay
not aware of
attention
that.
to What other guy to
Yeah.
get through it.
Well,
That one
yeah.
other guy, the guy who tried to run me off the road today.
There's only one guy.
Okay, so
Right.
my choice was.
Tell
to
them that.
stop. My choice was, because I didn't want to feel the effects of being angry. I was blown away, first of all, because he was right next to me. There wasn't any road there. I don't know what he wanted me to do. So then
He didn't really
I
care.
stopped thinking about it and I just moved over.
Yep.
And I said, go ahead, asshole.
Well, you try to be as normal as you can.
Right.
Yeah, but then I let
But
it go.
see whatever he's doing as a call for love.
Well, I didn't go through all that. I just decided I didn't want any more pain.
What I go to is, how do I know what he's thinking?
Yes, exactly, because you
I
don't.
don't. It's my perception that he's trying to run me off the road. He probably didn't even see me.
Yep.
So why am I thinking that?
Yes, right,
Hello, I'm over here.
Yeah, you gotta get away
Jesus
from your
help me.
thoughts about it.
Period.
yes.
Whatever he's doing, I don't know.
Well, she described you're never upset
For the reason you think.
for the reason you think. It's your choice, how you see yourself is what you're really upset at your brother for.
And again, I always like to bring it back to this, taking the example of Jesus dying on the cross from the perspective of the Course. All those things were being done to him, all those things that any one of us, if we were having them done to us, being called names, spitting, someone spitting on us, taking our clothes, taking our possessions, and then finally hanging us on a cross, we would not look very favorably about that. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm pretty sure right now, most of those occasions would not bring a smile to my face.
Well,
And yet, because he was aligned with this, he was not affected by the story that was going on in here. And that's where he's trying to lead us.
as the Course describes the real world, that's where he was.
That's correct.
He saw only a call for love. period.
Yes. And there's another
And
love,
he was trying to teach us
and he is, yes.
throughout his journey that what you were thinking or how you were looking at it isn't right.
Right. And there's a line, and I'm not going to quote it perfectly, but what is true and what is not is not. And this is the only thing that's true. This
That's
is
true.
not.
The celebration.
And yeah, go ahead, yes.
To answer your question, Jason, this is a quote from Ken. You don't have to practice being kind, it will just come. What you practice is forgiving yourself for being unkind. That's the practice. That is the practice of this course, being vigilant for when you are unkind. I'm
And for-
removing the block to the awareness of love.
In all the forms that
That's all we're
we
asking.
That's
set
all
up.
we're asked to
That's,
do.
it's so simple.
That's the only way I can see God in somebody else,
Yep.
is to remove the block within myself.
And to look and start by looking at, I don't want to do that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's exactly it.
exactly.
Yeah.
My
Because if I do that, I lose
I
my
lose it.
position here. I
You got
cannot
it.
be an innocent victim if I see my brother as the same instead of different.
And you don't
The
know
game
how
is
hard
over.
you
It's like
want
playing tug of war. And if one of you decides you want to go home and eat and you drop the rope, the four other guys stuck there falling on his back or face or whatever.
that.
Right. Well, as long as I still want to play, I don't want to release my brother. I'm
So are
not-
you saying, so Rose, are you saying that it's as simple as saying, I'm forgiving myself for seeing my brother as different?
Yes.
Well, ultimately, yeah.
Yes, I'm projecting onto my brother.
Right, I get that. And I get that it's my dream and that I'm really doing it to myself, whatever it is. But
If you
But I'm
got-
forgiving-
you
That
see
there-
your
there
brother
isn't a but
being
then.
harmful, Yes.
But go on, share your butt.
no, I said, I mean, I'm forgiving myself for seeing them as different, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, good. All right, and then I'll read one more little quote, and this is from the workbook where it says, what is forgiveness? Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. It does not pardon sins and make them real. It sees there was no sin. And in that view are all your sins forgiven.
Yeah, nothing ever happened.
Nothing ever happened. Well, how many of us are ready to own that unequivocally across the board of our lives?
Well, I would, except for what that guy did. to
I
me.
know, exactly, Yashar, exactly. But isn't that the way it is?
Right.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And the thing about, we're talking in words and, we're attempting to understand these words intellectually to the best of our ability. But as Rose was saying, that Ken said, look at what's going on right now. I mean, I can sit here and go, I'm going to love everybody, no matter who walks near me or says anything or does anything, I'm just going to respond in love. No, don't do that. Do this. Somebody walks by and they punch me and I get upset. Look at that. That's the moment we're being asked to look at. Look at your immediate response because that's who you are right now. It's not who you really are, but it's who you are in line with the investment you have in this thought system. So you look at that and you go, oh man, look at that. I thought I was so loving and kind and sweet. And where's my dimples and all that good stuff? But the facts are, I just attacked my brother.
That's a
Ah,
secret dream that the
interesting.
world's
Yes.
Trying to cover over.
Yes, yes, yes.
And that's why we need to look.
And that's why we need to look. And looking especially initially is, I think, not the easiest thing to do because I want to believe that I'm a sweet little innocent victim. And when my first response, and it doesn't have to be mouth, it doesn't have to be words, it's just that thought of, or fear or, uncertainty or whatever it happens to be, that's telling of who I am in consciousness in regard to which thought system I'm aligned with.
You took the event seriously.
And you took the event, well, of course, you wouldn't respond that way if you already didn't
That's
take it
right.
seriously, that's a given. But it's important for us to become aware, I'm still taking it seriously. And I
think
can-
I'm right.
And I think I'm right. And, we can talk about this all we want, but who am I now? Who am I now? That's what we really have to look at. And there's a quote that Ken gave, a good Course in Miracles student is one who looks at how he's responding and doesn't judge himself. So if I'm aligned with this and I respond with anything over on this side of the chart, of course, that's what I'm going to do. This is a no-brainer. Aligned with this, the response here is going to be something over here. So when I can observe myself doing whatever is going on here without judging it or condemning it, now we're making progress.
Well, and I think that when you have the so-called tools, of course, in Miracles, or wherever you get the tools.
Right.
the
Yeah.
tools are to help me see and hear when I'm going off the path. And not to
Yes.
solve somebody's problem or
Right,
the world's solutions. It may,
right,
for the
exactly.
Friday and appearance.
right.
But yeah,
All
it
right,
gives me the eyes to see and the ears to hear.
Absolutely.
So I can make a correction.
Right, but I have to be willing to recognize that that's what I'm looking for.
Right.
See, if I'm looking for, God's going to tell me I'm wonderful and sweet and, I'm much better than this person, especially, then I'm not going to be looking through the lens of even being open to that as a possibility.
I was in a meeting today where someone was taking credit. There was a long line of people who had worked on a particular solution. And the person came at the end. But didn't see all this other work. It was kind of interesting to watch, what was going on. And so a friend said, let the bad guy win every once in a while, as a joke,
Right.
but it's really true. To stand back, detach, look at
You
the
know,
contrast and
that
discern,
is-
that's all.
That's so beautiful. And the ironic thing is the more that I work on the course, the more I realize how much I was playing God and how freeing it is to not have to play God any longer, because he'll take care of it in a much better way than I will if I get to the point where I'm out of the way enough to let that happen. It's very wonderful feeling when that happens. Yes, Helene, you had your hand.
Oh, I guess what I find myself doing when the calm, still waters get ruffled and there's a grievance or a judgment or a blaming or something like that, and I go, I'm angry. And I look at that thought and I look at who's the I who thinks it's angry.
Mhm.
And I look at that.
Right.
I look at that, because the anger is like just something that's floating by. If I can look at who the I is without any preconceptions, being willing to let go of the preconceptions, which is basically asking for help
And knowing that you don't know.
and knowing
Right.
that I don't
Yep.
know exactly. And it means giving up a part of myself,
Mhm.
letting that go, being willing to let that go. And behind it, there's a smile, there's something that occurs. And it isn't always a smile or something that's on my face or anything like that. But there's a recognition of the reflection of God's grace, I guess.
Yep. And I think those moments are so beautiful, because if you try to share that moment with somebody else, especially someone who's not into miracles, I guess you could say, they're going to look at you like, what's wrong with you? That brings a smile to your face. But inside something shifted. Something's not like it was before.
And what happens, as we go along doing that on a daily basis, and I love to practice with little things, because they add up.
They're everywhere, right?
Is that, when the big ones come along, instead of going, oh my God, no, you go, oh goody, what does this have to teach me? What do I get from this? It's here. It's something that I put there to reflect back to me that I need to forgive. It's part of the illusion, I guess.
And you can be grateful for it.
Yes.
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 Yes, gratitude is okay.
And the course specifically states our brother then, because we've used what we set up as the ego for a different purpose, our brother now becomes our salvation, because my brother shows me that I've lost my peace. And that's, from the ego standpoint, that's really not that great news yet, but from the process of really having an opportunity to heal, it's wonderful. Because we projected this into my brother, forgot that forgot all this, and now I really think I'm an innocent victim of my
And
brother.
so we incrementally move from setting goals and trying to achieve things to maybe just having an intention
Right. Yep.
to be kind.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
And and to me, it's like when we first start the course, I'm speaking for myself. It's like we're like grabbing, give me this, I want to have peace, give me that, which is impossible to ever imagine peace from that place. But as we keep doing this and we keep faltering, and then you don't, it's not that you don't try so hard, you just don't get as disappointed when it didn't work out the way you thought it should as much. And then eventually, you start to relax in the process. And then it becomes more like putting your hand out and waiting for the feather to fall into it, instead of trying to grab the feather and it keeps eluding you. After a while, you just go with kind of the flow of the process, and you start to have more reflections from the love instead of the projections from the ego, and it becomes a smoother ride.
Yeah, one of the things that occurred to me this week, and I do journal writing on a very regular, sometimes.
Right.
And a lot of it is, you know, I'm writing about what I want. And I thought, okay, so how about instead of asking, what do I want? I ask, what can I bring to this situation?
Mhm.
So I flipped that. And that's been very helpful to me in terms of, okay, I'm in a situation, I don't like it. What do I need to bring to that situation? And the thing that occurred to me was ease.
Yes. Well, that's a very powerful position to be in.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a slimness
Yes.
around.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because anytime there's the conflict going on, nobody's winning. When you bring simply just ease, that changes the whole dynamics of that experience.
Because the opposite of that is dis-ease.
Exactly. So I'm going to reread something we've read weeks on end, but I'm going to read one more line that I think is something very effective. Again, I'm responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. Deceive yourself no longer that you are helpless in the face of what is done to you. And I like this line. Now, somebody's got their speaker on. If you could please turn it off. I'm not sure who it is. Thank you. All righty. So acknowledge, but that you have been mistaken, and all effects of your mistake will disappear. And the Course talks about the idea there is no sin, but we made a mistake. And Jesus would say a silly mistake on top of that. But I have to acknowledge that I made that mistake. And then, as he said, all effects of your mistake will disappear. And it doesn't say I have to figure out how to make them disappear. It says they will disappear because you're no longer feeding what's making it solid and thick. You're allowing the other answer to come forth that will bring you that disappearance of the block that we're holding so firmly to. All righty. So under this forgiveness of yourself, I actually started with the third paragraph last week, but I decided to read the first two paragraphs, and there was some good juice in there. And the first line says, no gift of heaven has been more misunderstood than has forgiveness. So he's trying to help us understand we haven't got a clue what forgiveness is. And actually this pamphlet goes on, and I'm not going to go into all the different levels, but there are like 4 different levels of what normal humans call forgiveness that has absolutely nothing to do with what the Course talks about when it's talking about forgiveness. And one of them is, I'm upset with Rose, so I'm going to be the bigger, more holy, more spiritual, more wonderful person and forgive her. Well, the Course would say, no, that's not what this is about. If you projected whatever the problem is onto Rose, is it Rose that needs to be forgiven? Or is it me that has to be forgiven for what I've done to Rose? And that's a whole different story. And I know growing up, I wanted to follow Jesus, and he said, forgive your brother. And I went through many hoops and ladders and whatever to try to do that with lots of brothers. Yes, good point. And, it didn't work out too well. And to me, the Course is the absolute only thing that ever has connected the dots of why that never worked. Because I was, literally climbing up the wrong tree. And of course, that has to require that I really look at the dynamics of what this Course is trying to teach us and embrace it, even if I'm not ready to do it or practice it. If I'm still doing the point the finger at somebody else, we might as well go home, because we're not, it's okay that you want to continue to point the finger, but you're not really working on what the Course is saying.
Well, the key is you're only forgiving illusions which aren't here.
Yep.
That's what you're forgiving your brother
Right,
for what he hasn't done.
right.
It's my projection on him.
That's right. And who's got the projector in their head and who's got the slide in the projector? Well, you could call this the light on the projector, and this is the slide, and this is what I'm going to see in the world, because this is what's in front of the light.
The two clowns over here, right, just acting out their part.
They're absolutely correct. They're acting out their part, but who wrote the parts?
I did.
That's
I'm the
what we got to
dreamer.
look at. You're the dreamer of the dream that wrote the script of duality,
got it.
of which you now put the gunk in somebody else, and you think you're playing the part of an innocent victim. But both of these characters are coming from your mind. Just like when you dream at night, you know, where do all those characters go when you wake up in the morning? They were all in your head.
That's why that protects the projection.
Absolutely, and does a fine job at it, may I say, a fine job at it.
That's what it's for.
Lifetime's a fine job.
Better to see you with my.
There you go. All
If
right,
you really stop and think, the only thing going on here is a projection of my mind,
that's it.
not everybody else's mind.
That is correct.
We're all watching the same movie.
That's right.
Right.
You got the screen, but the movie.
Yep.
You are the screen.
Yeah. But I want you to be my screen so that I can play here instead of go here. Yeah, right. Well, there is nobody else, right? There you go. There's that.
There's nobody else out here.
That's where we get caught up. in.
Well, of course.
Splits and,
Right. Right. And the bottom line is we can say there's only one mind, and absolutely that's unequivocally correct. But because we've chosen to align with duality, it appears very much so that we're experiencing life from the place of a dualistic place. And what he's trying to help us do is realize that's not where the truth lies. This is where the truth lies. So, you know, unless I become aware that that's where the problem lies, I'm not going to ask for another way of seeing it or experiencing it.
Take the darkness to the light.
Correct. All right, so he goes on to say in regard to forgiveness, it has in fact become a scourge, a curse where it was meant to bless, a cruel mockery of grace, parody upon the holy peace of God. So in other words, we've taken this concept of forgiveness and literally written our own script of what forgiveness is. And we, you know, again, just like this, you know, we dumped God off the throne and we climbed on and did our own thing. Okay, so that's what we're seeing. That's what we're experiencing. And forgiveness is going to fall into this line because we're not going to tell the truth. We're going to hide it. Yet those who have not yet chosen to begin the steps of prayer cannot but use it thus. In other words, if that's where we are, that's the only thing we could do. There isn't another option.
What's the steps of prayer?
I'm sorry. Oh, the steps of prayer, if you read the rest of the pamphlet, it will go into the different steps in there. You know, being a small child, asking for a new bike, and then you'll progress up to the point where you only want, you know, healing for your brother, and then on it goes, where the top layer or the top step of the prayer is, I just want to know who I am. Okay. So forgiveness, kindness is, I'm sorry, I didn't read the whole thing. Yet those who have not yet chosen to begin the steps of prayer cannot but use it thus. Forgiveness, kindness is obscure at first, but salvation is not understood nor truly sought for. And I'm going to stop there because we don't even want truth when we start on this journey. We want, make my life a little bit better so I will feel better in my little corner of the world. Well, that's not what forgiveness is from the point of view of the Course. But as we continue to dig deeper in our understanding of the Course and embrace what real forgiveness is, we'll start to let go of the other forms or beliefs of forgiveness, and we'll start coming from a place of understanding what it really is. What was meant to heal is used to hurt because forgiveness is not wanted. And, you know, I know we go round and round with that concept of do I want forgiveness or don't I want forgiveness? And I think most of us, especially when we first began, would sit in the room and cringe if we read anything around this, because it feels like you don't understand. I want forgiveness above and beyond anything in the planet, and I just don't understand why this isn't happening. But if we understand that in order to access the doorway to what the Course is saying is true forgiveness, it requires that I left my brother off the hook. And if I want to take my, if I want to, jump over here and leave my brother here, I'm not going to make it over here. Because in oneness, my brother has to be there with me. And if I'm trying to escape on my own and leave my brother behind, it's never going to happen. And of course, and not to feel bad about that realization, because that's exactly where all of us start when we start this process. What would I want to forgive my brother for? I just want to be out of here. Ken used to laughingly say, when you were born, everyone was given 2 pieces of paper. And on one piece of paper, we would make a list of the things that we did wrong. And then we would make a list of all the things everybody else did wrong. And our only goal was to have a shorter list when we died, so we could say to God, look, I wasn't perfect, but look at them. Yeah. And again, this is all on a very, very subconscious level. Most of us don't have a clue this is what the manipulative stuff that's going on in our minds. Well, we still do. Exactly. But I think now we're starting to connect the dots of the realization of that comparison game that's always being played out. We were always doing it. I don't think we were consciously aware of to the depth that we were playing that game and what it really represented, actually.
You only hate your brother for yours.
Yeah, isn't that great?
You can say it a million times.
I know you can.
It comes back to
And
you.
you can,
You only hate your brother for your own sin.
Yeah, then saying it a million times.
That's right.
How many times have we all heard that?
many, 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 many. Yes, and we still get duped and we still get pulled in. And that just represents how deeply seated this thought system is that we put into place because we wanted it to hold our attention.
And it's not about not getting duped.
No, it's about what do I do when I do this?
Kind of piggybacking on what Helene said, what I notice, and it's not all the time, but what I notice is now when, I get duped, I don't see it so much as a failure anymore. It's not, oh,
Exactly.
it's like, there it is again.
Yes.
What did I
You know.
expect?
Exactly.
I actually, one day I said, you again.
Yes. Well, yeah. But that's representative of the fact we're not taking this quite so seriously. And that's really a progression, I would call it, from the perspective of the Course. Even though the Course would say in any given instant, you're either here or here. But if I'm spending more time here, the reflection of that in the world is that I'm just not, I'm not being duped by the lie as much. I'm not taking it so seriously. I recognize, well, yeah, of course, that's what I'm going to do if I'm aligned with this. It's not such a big deal.
Stuff still happens. But I
Oh,
don't have
oh,
my
yeah.
books in it.
Yes, definitely. Or it doesn't, yes, yeah,
Gotcha.
yes.
And like what you said, it becomes more of, what is the show in me? What is-
Yes, yes.
You're like opening a new page of the book.
Or something I like to think of, somebody upsets me, back to the drawing board, what in me needs to be healed that sees him in my brother. Which,
And it's easier to cut to the chase.
oh, it
Yes,
definitely
it is.
becomes easier to cut
That's
the
another
chest.
choice for you on your.
Yeah, here we go. I know how,
Right,
Well,
which,
it's telling you, I must have decided wrongly.
exactly,
And that's terrific, because
Yes,
I just
big
decided
time.
wrongly, I didn't.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
you have another alternative to being really upset about how stupid you are and how dumb the world is.
Yep,
You've given the power to where it really belongs.
yes.
it makes it so simple. I don't have to figure anything out.
Oh, that's what I said. When you stop playing God, this becomes so much easier. I mean, it really does become much easier.
Don't have to fix anything, don't have to figure anything.
I don't have to
have to
be the
do
center of the
anything.
attention and none of
Or
that.
analyze
Yes,
it. Yeah,
yes.
and not that there isn't a place for thinking or being analytical or something like that. But I
Absolutely.
am not attached to it.
Yes, yeah. Well, not as much.
This time, right?
Sometimes.
This time, yeah. And
And
that
even-
time.
But
and
even
that
with
time.
that
Yeah.
is, if you can look at, well, right now, I'm still playing analytical.
Yeah.
And you're gentle with that as well, yes.
And what good does it do? I guess
Well-
that's what I was thinking, well, that, that's not gonna work, that's it, it's not gonna work, if it doesn't work, if I'm still all worked up, then it didn't work, but something else will work finally.
Well, there's a place for analytics and it might be part of your job. It might be
Sure.
some puzzle that you have to figure out or
Absolutely.
something like that.
And it could be part of your journey because you're not really ready for this, and analyzing stuff takes up a lot of time and it keeps me very busy, and I need that right now. I often think that the stuff that we place in front of God and, again, from us, this is our security blanket. If I'm too afraid of this, I embrace this like my little blankie as a little child does. Because I need to have my blankie because I'm too afraid. One day we'll, toss the scabby thing away, but while we need it, we'll enjoy it, every bit of it. All right, one more line and then we'll take a break. Guilt becomes salvation and the remedy appears to be a terrible alternative to life. So basically what that means is when you're aligning with the ego sense of forgiveness, then all true forgiveness gets thrown out of the door or window, and it's never going to be the answer for what we're looking for. It can't be. It's a remedy that's never going to work. All right, let's take a 10-minute break and we
Oh, well.
win some, you lose
Helen
some.
did say 5 or 6 people.
That's right, she did. Yeah, you're right. She definitely did. All right, we are going to continue now, and we are going to go on to the next paragraph in the Song of Prayer, if anybody wants to read along. And for those of you who have one of the newer books, they actually have a line on the front of your book that says supplements, and so the Song of Prayer would be in those books. I, on the other hand, have one that does not, but we also have the little pamphlet, and I'll show it to you because I know there were some people who were not here last week. It's just a little pamphlet like this, very tiny, that was scribed by Helen after the course came through to help explain the concepts of forgiveness because they were being already totally messed up from the perspective of the course. So, all right, so paragraph 2, forgiveness to destroy will therefore suit the purpose of the world far better than its true objective and the honest means by which this goal is reached. Forgiveness to destroy will overlook no sin, no crime, no guilt that it can seek and find and love. Dear to its heart is error, and mistakes loom large and grow and swell within its sight. It carefully picks out all evil things and overlooks the loving as a plague, a hateful thing of danger and of death. Forgiveness to destroy is death, and this it sees in all it looks upon and hates. God's mercy has become a twisted knife that would destroy the Holy Son he loves. Okay, so again, this paragraph is basically, I would say, describing what all forgiveness would be other than the true sense of forgiveness that the Course presents. And Jesus kind of mockingly calls it forgiveness to destroy. And the reason he calls it that is because if we use the other understanding of forgiveness that most of us have lived most of our life by, it is not going to bring the results of returning back to oneness. It's going to bring us continuing along the lines of using the illusion to perpetuate the illusion by the use of all the things that the Course is really helping us to walk beyond. So forgiveness to destroy will therefore suit the purpose of the world far better than its true objective. And I'm just going to stop there. So if our goal is to perpetuate the illusion, forgiveness to destroy will be perfect. It will continue. Would somebody turn it up 1 degree if you're over there, please? I turned it down just a little bit to get a little fresh air, but I pushed it a little too far. All right, so forgiveness to destroy will therefore suit the purpose of the world far better than its true objective and the honest means by which this goal is reached. So when you're an ego, you want to perpetuate all the storyline of dualism, of kill or be killed, guilt, sin, and fear. Only you play that part so that you can remain the innocent victim of circumstances beyond your control. And that then becomes the objective of this storyline of separation. And again, we are all wrapped up in this, totally unaware that this was the setup that has brought this result. We literally sit here in shock of how could this world be so cruel? How could people attack me? How could somebody run me off the road? How could all these things be happening when in truth, I am just really a sweet, wonderful person? Yeah. Forgiveness to destroy will overlook no sin, no crime, no guilt that he can seek and find and love. So basically what that means is, again, from the perspective of the separation, the purpose of the illusion is now to seek out sin, to seek out crime, to seek out guilt. And that will be the gifts that will be brought back to the master, me, to prove that I'm an innocent victim and I am justified to attack my brother. It's the whole shebang here, guys. And if you notice, and it says seek and find love, but the word love is in quotes. And anytime you see the word quotes or a word in quotes like that, what it refers to is that that's an ego word. So in other words, if this is what I want, this is what I've chosen, and I want to perpetuate this, I love the fact that I'm finding and seeking for sin and crime and guilt. That's what I want. In fact, not only does that what I want, I can't survive as an innocent victim without it. So I pay, and I often say this, we pay a very high price to maintain the separated state. Dear to its heart is error and mistakes loom large and grow and swell within its sight. And the Course even goes so far as to say, we send out little feelers, and those little feelers will, like dust bunnies, will crawl around and bring to us something that we can justifiably say, if it wasn't for this, I could be at peace. And it really doesn't matter what we fill in on that line, as long as I can be an innocent victim, we're all good to go.
Well, in order to come up with that, we have to judge. And judgment is impossible.
Jesus would say that, absolutely. Because he says, and you don't mind me saying, that in order for any one of us to judge, we would have to know absolutely everything in the past, in the future, in any other form. And we are incapable of being able to judge in any way, shape, or form.
Well, beside that, you think you know what everything is.
Correct. And we think we know what the problem is, and we think we know what the solution is. Yes.
Well, the ego thrives on the to-do list of everything. It takes apart everything and
Yep.
puts it into a to-do list,
Yep.
either this pile or that pile, or sorts it out here or resort. It's all about like having something to do.
Keeps you
Yes.
busy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that's what, I mean, that's too, like, that's what the ego's all about, is always trying to rectify what if you did something wrong that you're never forgiven, you keep thinking, why did I do that? That's horrible. So there's all these angles and
And just think of how many, whether it was you that made a mistake or you're upset with somebody, how something could have happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. And it's like just as fresh as a daisy in our head. And we can just bring that back up in a moment's notice.
well, then how that is nothing to the Holy Spirit
Correct.
there's a, but it turns on something. It's not that it's nothing, it's that it's not given any space. Whatever happened. And, talk about like 40, 50 years ago, a primary relationship I had, like 45 years ago. There's still something about that because I'm in my body and I remember, there's still something about that that makes me look at it, but I don't feel the effects of that. I feel less and less, well, I mean, I can't say it, at one point it's debilitated me. There was no, I couldn't even
Right.
think.
Understood.
And when thoughts come up like that, it's my invitation to forgive.
Right, or examine them
Right,
and
to
see
look
what
from the other
that's
angle
about.
of, okay, so if the Holy Spirit can heal other things that are small things that I've gotten upset by, then that also, can finally be laid to rest. But I guess just, there's a part of me that wants to hold on to that because it means that I have at least had something, 40 years ago that was something that was very important to me.
Sure.
And how other things happening around me, like with my family and other people, were nothing compared to that individual hurt or whatever that I went through. And so now I see it as just another chance to
Yes.
make a choice that I didn't do anything wrong and nothing really happened. That was nothing. I mean, whatever happened, but it was inconsequential in terms of the larger scheme of life. That's where I'm headed.
And, I think we can even use those memories from the past, even if it's somebody that's passed on. If it does keep coming up, use that as an opportunity to ask for healing in regard to that. It doesn't matter if the person's no longer physically present.
Whatever you're upset
Right.
about is, and I think to be able to write down, this really hurts me now. And I don't like this. I don't really want this. Help me. And, to start going off on, this bothers me, and I remember this, I remember that, and keep putting all the edges to it. If I can finally just stop myself for a second and say, I don't want this, help me.
Yes.
Then that changed the whole course, sometimes the course of a whole Sunday afternoon. The Sunday afternoons are my particular Snyder Martin universes because I don't go to church anymore. Okay, now Sunday afternoon, what am I supposed to do? That's a part of me that gets, like I just want to squeeze it out, squeeze it to that and say, no, I don't like this and get me out of here. And sometimes I just run up to bed and sleep for a few hours and still have to wake up and face it again. But that's just how, when I'm in the middle of that, oh God, it's Sunday afternoon. Now what am I supposed to do? I say, well, God, help me. Help me now. Thank you.
And it can be flipped around that quickly,
Right.
no matter
Help me
what
now.
the form it may appear to be.
Help me now. And I might go to bed or I might go for a walk or whatever I do after that, I feel better.
Not happening.
Oh, that's a suggestion. See, the ego always has another suggestion. And
Yes, it
and then
does.
my ego goes, what?
Are you kidding me?
What? Football? Yeah, it's okay. Russ just said football. I didn't even.
You don't have to worry, there's a lesson in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lesson in there somewhere, that's for sure. Thank you.
Got that right. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I think that's why the course is not more popular with a lot of people because
Who would want to do it?
Right.
but I mean, it's deconstructing
Absolutely.
the ego world, like the ego world says you should be this or you shouldn't be that, or where is
Yes.
that guy, or where is that gal? You
Yep.
lost out. It's
Yeah.
just like an endless parade of how you lost out and how you're not good enough and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. And people say, well, if I don't have these things, you know, I got neurological networks in my head that for this experience, that's why it doesn't go away.
Right.
But what am I supposed to be? Who am I supposed to be? What is this? Nobody else is like this. And so it really, yeah. Nobody else is like this. And
Yeah, but they don't care, the ones who are like you don't care about you either, so.
right,
Right.
exactly. You're not looking
Yeah,
for
no,
a company for that.
you're just kind of stuck in that.
Well, yeah, so it's an interesting, you know, who am I if I am not?
Sure.
the
Absolutely.
deconstructed
Yes.
me? Yeah.
Well, and I think it really comes down from the perspective of the course of if you really want the peace of God, it's yours. If you don't, something else is going to come and take its place. And that's again, not a judgment put on us as far as, well, you gotta do this now or something like that. It's simply, that's all the course is really offering. If you really want peace above all else, that's going to motivate you in those difficult times to, you know, turn the switch.
I think
And
just
it's
that-
not popular. As Rose said, and I'll get you in a sec. Rose said before the break, Helen said she thought the course was for 5 or 6 people. You know, well, there's a few more of us out there, but there's a whole lot more people that have the book that really don't have a clue what it's even saying. And when you really start digging deeper, you realize, you know, he's offering us something that's way beyond all the things of the hero of the dream, but they're not things that appeal to the ego or the hero of the dream, as long as that's really what I want. So, you know, we have to look at, what do I really want? Do I want this to fall down or do I want it to stand up? You know, what's the deal here? Yeah. And again, it's set up with so many things that pull the ego in. You know, I think of it like a vacuum cleaner. Well, that one doesn't work. We're going to get you over here until we settle down to the point where, yep, all I really want is that piece. And you can't make yourself do that. And, you know, we really, it's truly for ourselves, as we've talked earlier today. It's accepting the atonement from myself is to question, do I want peace above everything else at this moment? And
if
some,
you're honest,
a lot of
9
times you're not.
times out of 10 You don't,
That's right.
and that's okay.
And well, not only is it okay, but I think it's actually quite beneficial, because if you're being honest that I'm not ready for it, you're not pretending that you really want it and you really don't want it. And that we're in that place, growth can occur. But when we finally are honest today, nah, not quite ready. And then one day it'll be, yep, let's do this.
But when you really do want it
Mhm.
and you feel like crap, then that's, to me, that's the place where it hits the road. Like I really want this and I'm really fed up with all this crap. And so it's like you have all those emotions going and finally you have a showdown. Okay, God, you got something for me. I feel terrible. Is there any way, anything about what's happening will help me? You know, I guess you just have to, you for 1 second, get off of how bad you feel into just one little space of trust. And then I found that whatever I do, which before that it was like, what can I do? How can I feel better? What should I do? What do you do? But once I say, okay, I had it, I'm ready, then whatever I do from that point on has peace attached to it.
And I'm so amazed in my process of how, if something is very uncomfortable going on in life, or you're in pain, whatever it may be, your energy goes to the discomfort and the pain. It's just like it eats you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't leave a space for, okay, I choose something different. And it's amazing to watch how manipulative and how it pulls you in, and you're thinking about it or putting energy toward it, and you don't even realize, wait, I could turn around and go the other direction.
I have to bring the space to the
You have
situation.
absolutely well put. I love that. Yes, yes.
I
yes.
had, you know, I went to see my hairdresser this morning and she had COVID. She was in the hospital
Mm.
with pneumonia, and I just found this comment of her so interesting. Because she was telling me she didn't watch TV, she didn't, she wasn't on her phone, she didn't do anything but sit there and try to breathe.
Mm.
And I thought, oh
Wow.
my God,
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
that's just what you're talking about. I'm taking all my energy and putting it into the suffering.
Yes,
And not that, a distraction is the answer,
right.
but it's just, yeah, watch that. Hello,
Watch
watch what you're doing here.
Yep.
Well, we don't want to be responsible.
Right.
That's the end
I
result.
know, I
is
know.
We don't want responsibility. We want to blame somebody else.
Yep.
And even if we want responsibility, it's not necessarily, it's not the way we're looking at it.
Right.
We can't really understand what responsibility means in that situation, because it all feels like I've been as damn responsible as I can possibly be, and everything is all kerflooey. And that's where that thing about what we want has to change to what we ask help with. If
But
we
I think
want help.
both of you are using the word responsibility
Yes.
differently. You're saying
Okay,
I'm a
yeah.
responsible person and I've done what I'm supposed
Right.
to do in the world. He's saying the responsibility is I put that in the world and now I can step out of it and let him show me how to
Right,
heal
so I
it.
think
So
I
That
do
is my ability to respond.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do that
It's my
because-
responsibility is what side of the chart I'm on.
Correct. Yeah.
That's what Harvey's talking.
I see myself doing that because
Right.
when you say that, Harvey, I have to reassemble the words for myself.
I
again. So it's like I
understand.
have to ask the Holy Spirit for help. When you say it the way you say it, I have to ask for help about how do I want to know what that means?
Right.
Thank you.
And I absolutely understand what you're
Yeah,
saying
that's just-
about the definitions in the course. It's like you really have to reassemble your brain to accept what it is he's talking about. I mean, again, forgiveness is a perfect example. If every time you hear the word forgiveness in the course, you go down the road of the conventional way of forgiveness, you're gone. You have to bring it back and go, wait a minute, this is not the definition of forgiveness Jesus is talking about. How do I put that, thinking cap on or whatever you want to call, so that I'm living and working through that perspective as well as the
You know,
other.
That's
Yes.
where you use the metaphysics of the course,
Right.
because no, I don't believe this world is a dream.
Right.
But if I don't have the metaphysics of the course in my mind while I'm practicing, I'm going to come into this practice as a body. And it's going to keep me on the left side of that chart. I
Right.
have to keep in mind, even though I don't believe it, and it doesn't matter that I don't believe it, that this is a dream.
Right. Yep. Yes.
For
That's
me,
faith.
the architecture that I'm building, that old sort of a angel, the devil on the shoulder.
Right.
All the time. When I choose the so-called angel, I'm building the architecture of a truth that allows me to be on the other side occasionally.
Right.
And then the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit will take me more, perhaps. But it's not that for me, I do believe it. And always have, even as a little kid.
Okay.
Well, the problem is we're out.
But I didn't have any tools, no stories, no people to see
Support it,
this,
right.
what I believed on the inside. I was in a Catholic church, I'm like, this can't be right.
Right.
Yeah. There must be something more.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And
we
you're stuck.
trust.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly.
Well, we're always operating in a split mind. So part of our mind wants to heal and another part, depending on which piggy bank I'm filling,
Yep. Yep.
determines which one I'm gonna follow.
You got it. That example of the story that I often talk about of kids playing at the ocean on the sand, building sandcastles, and they're just having a really good time. You hear mom calling them for dinner. Well, they're not really hungry yet, so they just keep going. But as mom keeps calling a little bit more and they start to get a little more hungry, eventually one day they're going, I think I better go home and eat dinner. And then a wave comes by and all the fun things that they had made will just all gone. Well, that's the same thing. Jesus keeps calling. We were all being called long before we found the course. We didn't always quite hear the voice, but it was being called.
Well, either that or what was wrong with us. We weren't happy about it.
Exactly.
If you look at things sometimes out of your past and you go, oh, that was you. The Holy Spirit.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah. Well, and I just think it's always kind of a warm feeling of the realization I've been guided all along. I didn't know that that was nudging me in the direction I needed to go to be able to be ready for the next one and so on. And sometimes they're pretty rough turns in the road. Sometimes they're not, but we can look back and realize they were guiding me where I need to be.
There's a prayer by Teilhard de Chardin, called Patient Trust.
Mm.
One of my meditation groups, and I forgot about that. You know, trust me, you see this, I have this.
Yeah,
Just
I
trust
know.
me. It's
I
just
know.
a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful prayer.
And then there's Alfred E. Newman. New word.
There you go.
Yes, yes, new word.
All right, so we're about halfway through with that paragraph. It says, dear to its heart, and this is basically the ego's belief in forgiveness to destroy. Dear to its heart is error, and mistakes loom large and grow and swell within its sight. Well, that's what the ego wants. It wants to have the heart of error. It wants mistakes. It wants to feed on the belief system of the ego to keep it alive. That's its food.
Keeps you mindless.
It keeps you very mindless, and it works really well because we're so doggone addicted to it because we have chosen for the ego over and over, and we wanted to maintain that thought system because underneath that, I want to be an individual. I want to be special. I want God off the throne so I can be on the throne. That's a lot. Look, I'm on the throne. God's gone. Look at me. You know, king of the road or whatever, the king of the mountain, I guess it was. But with that comes duality, and then guilt, sin, and fear, and all the rest of it comes with it. Until I finally say, yeah, enough of this. All right, Holy Spirit, I guess I'll get off the throne. What do you got for me, dude? And then he presents to us the heritage that was always there for us. But be very aware when we're choosing for the ego is going to run the show. And the show it's going to run is literally the opposite of who and what we are.
It's mind pollution.
It's mind pollution. That's well put. Yes. And I've also give the example sometimes of swimming in a dirty pond that's gross. And every time you move an arm, something's hanging off. It's so gross. And there's a beautiful, pristine pond right next to it. But we're too uncomfortable to step over there until we can't breathe anymore. And then we go, there must be another way. All right, let's see. It carefully picks out all evil things and overlooks the loving as a plague. And again, this is from the perspective of the ego. It doesn't want to pull out the loving things. It dangles a few loving things so that it keeps our attention here, but then those turn to the hate, you're not doing this right, or all the things that people that come together usually find to argue and banter about. But it really plays on us in that regard.
It doesn't last.
And it doesn't last.
That's
Yes.
what gives it away.
Yes. A hateful thing of danger and of death. And again, that's the pool we're swimming in. And Jesus is coming here as gently as he possibly can to help us recognize you chose the wrong pool, dude. It's never going to bring you what you thought you were looking for, as long as you're now looking for peace. If you're looking to be right, you're looking to be in charge, you're looking to be a special and individual, then this will work just fine. Keep you hopping. But as you start to put on your magnifying glass or taking out your magnifying glass and you start to examine that everything of this world comes with guilt, sin, and fear, death, terror, depletion, always going to be an end to it, then you start to question, is this really where I want to still continue to play?
Well, that's what we chose over, nothing happened.
That's exactly correct. And be very aware, every week, guys, right under Holy Spirit, it says nothing happened. But we're still not all that excited about nothing happened yet. And so we play and play until we finally come to it. Forgiveness to destroy is death. And again, the concept of death was born on the removal of God from the throne, basically killing him off so that we could exist in an individual separate state. And from that moment on, the concept of birth and death was born. And everything in this world is based on birth and death. The day dies. I turn the page. That one's dead. Now I'm looking at this one. And that's how it's set up. And the whole time, the answer is awaiting us. But I have to be willing to drop my story to find out what his answer is. And it sees in all it looks upon and hates. So again, we're going to see death, we're going to see destruction, we're going to see all the things that we are now beginning to more, at least intellectually beginning to look at and realizing, why would I want to choose this? And, Ken would often say, when you start to look and you realize the cost it's bringing, you won't want to choose that any longer. And what is the cost?
Peace of God.
The peace of God. And its replacement is chaos, guilt, sin, and fear, terror, you name it. God's mercy has become a twisted knife that would destroy the Holy Son he loves. So again, when we're choosing for the opposite or holding the knife, and we're the ones that are twisting it literally, unbeknownst to us, because we don't remember what the setup was. We really thought we were born into this world, a sweet little innocent victim. And, I really have to wait until everybody else comes around so that I'm going to be okay.
That's the script I wrote.
And that's the script we wrote. And we hopped into it, and we should get accolades for how well we played it out. And of course, in order to play it out, I have to have my perpetrator, and my perpetrator has been well trained to play their part as well.
Well, since it's a one or other world, if I'm innocent, then you gotta be guilty.
And I want you to be guilty so that I can be innocent. And I'm waiting for you to show up. Even though, Marianne would not say, I'm waiting for you to show up. Marianne would say, all I want is peace. But to the degree that this is invested, I don't really want the peace. But the day that I say, I don't know anything,
Then you're on your way.
then you're on your way. Because then I collapse the story I've written to keep my brother guilty so I can play the innocent part.
And you want him to betray you. That way you can take the blame.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's the name of the ego game.
In the next line, Jesus said, would you forgive yourself for doing this? And the answer for most of us is no, I won't forgive myself. I think I've done something so awful, so horrific. I'd rather stew in the fact that I'm not worthy of love than return to the arms of my Father, who's simply waiting for us to come back home.
It's become our DNA.
It's pretty much so, yep. And again, it's pretty much become, well, it probably always was, our DNA, but we didn't realize that we're the ones that set it up that way.
That's right.
We're having the opportunity of, lifting the veil, of exposing what's going on. And, that movie, The Wizard of Oz, where apparently the character was behind the curtain, when they finally exposed it, it was no big deal. Well, we're learning how to expose it.
And they wanted the wizard to be someone special and
Yep.
effective in life. talking that wasn't.
Well, and Jesus is trying to teach us that the ego is not effective or beneficial for us. And, I marvel at the fact that we struggle so hard at trying to work this course that's giving us everything, and we cling to ick. And we're so unwilling to let it go. It's mind-boggling. But again, it's because we're so addicted to this thought system.
Because losing this is scary to us,
Yeah.
very scary.
Yep. And I think that's the beauty of the course, is that he's not asking us to let go of this. He's asking us to have the little willingness in any given moment when you're so miserable you can't stand it anymore.
And we don't have to change anything that we're doing.
Nope.
We just have to remove our talents.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, how much easier can it be?
Yeah, it is so simple, and it really does help, as Rose was saying, to have some sort of a basic idea of the metaphysics of
Oh,
the
gosh,
course,
yes.
even if it's 1 and 2.
Yes.
This one is love, this one is murder. What do I want?
Yes.
It can be that simple.
Okay. And I haven't used this for a long time, but I feel inspired to use it today, is that if we literally could see the thought system of the ego as a pile of poop and then the pile of whipped cream, we would very gladly choose just the whipped cream. But there's just enough shiny coins on that pile of poop that just keep drawing us back to it.
I think we deserve it.
Well, and we think we deserve it, yes, because we don't think we're worthy of love. And again, that unworthiness towards love is so much more deeply seated than we have an inkling of a clue that's going on. We have that subtleness of, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm not worthy. But the depth of that is so amazing.
Well, that's because we want the ego's description.
Yeah, and we
It
wanted
was
the
in the
egos,
ego.
right, and we wanted the ego's description because that allows me to pull it off.
So we separated ourselves and the throne.
Yep.
Being something as a thing to want, and it's not there. So then.
Think in terms of when you were a kid, did you ever want to be noticed by somebody or?
All the time.
What do you mean when I was a kid?
Your hair fits nice, and
That's exactly what we're portraying.
at this age, my meditation takes me back to, when I was 10 and I
Please
had a
notice.
crush on somebody and I was like, how I was acting. And, I mean, it helps you tear that part away. It's like wallpaper or something. You
Yep.
tear the wallpaper away and get to see what it's made of underneath there. So yeah, that's exactly, and it just becomes a more like, what do you call that? The circle of atonement. Like you see how you let go of things because you finally can ask for help in that particular area. And then all of a sudden the next day, somebody comes up to you and says something. And I've just noticed in the last 6 months, a neighbor who I felt was standoffish, and she was always talking to all these people. She came over in my yard, and I looked at her and thought, what's she doing here? And I asked for this kind of to let go of how I don't know what she's thinking about. And how does it serve me to think that that she doesn't like me?
You're special.
So that was, just to see that. How does it serve me to think that? And so I asked to be helpful with that and just, let her alone. So I used to rush over and start talking to her and make all this thing. And then, yeah, so the piece kind of kept, kept underneath the stuff. And
Yep.
yeah.
She gave you the opportunity to see that your judgments were way off base.
Yeah, it's quite beautiful when something that you held firm to just melts away.
And just
No,
to understand that it was me doing it was, I guess, the biggest part of it, to understand that it was pivotal on what I was thinking. And
Beautiful,
so
yeah.
that's a big chunk of something. that
It's a
gets
real big
worked
chunk of
out.
something.
You see it in one instance and you see it in another instance, and then you say, oh, that's another thing like that other thing, and I can, I'll let that, that's the only way this is gonna work is if I let go and don't have any judgment on anything. And so then that kind of pulls everything in. But, little by little, if you get one or two of those,
Yep.
you actually understand the difference in how your life can be different, and then you pursue that more
Right.
readily, and
And you get 3 and 4 and 5 and 6.
you learn to stay awake. You learn to stay
Yes.
awake because you
Yes.
really just want to go to sleep. And I guess, since college, all I want to do is sleep. We get through classes. And so, I spend a lot more time being awake at this age. And it's a shock that it's also like, it points to eternal life, or it points to, this is what works, is to keep trying to let go of what's bugging the hell out of me and
Right.
wait and ask and
Yep.
see it different, or just ask for help. I guess that's
it. Well, and Ken would often say, you want to learn the format of this and then begin to apply it to absolutely everything, big or small.
Generalize it.
Generalize. Yeah. Did you have something, Rose? I thought you had your hand up. Okay. All right. Well, I think we will end our class, do our prayer, and move on to see what life will bring us today. So everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given and accept but this into the minds that you've created and which you love. Amen.
go Browns.
All right, have a wonderful